I guess I can't misbehave anymore. Okay, so yay. You know how Desmond Tutu and His Holiness would, His Holiness would always do something of, and Desmond Tutu would go, look, we're supposed to be serious now.
They do have senses of humor.
Oh, I don't know anybody who, I really don't.
Always laugh.
There's not much point in trying to work on yourself without a sense of humor, because it's really pretty funny. When we really look at all the ways in which we make ourselves suffer and make up stuff that just like, really, this is going to help. It doesn't make sense.
I find myself laughing at when I have self-grasping actions, and
well, it's hilarious.
More laughing at it now.
Yeah.
And I recognize it. I'm glad I'm recognizing it.
Yes.
So I get that.
Okay.
Growth.
Well, also, it's also because it's pretty funny. I mean, it's like amazing when you just have that mind, when you realize, it's like when you realize I'm being impatient because I think the world should bow to me. I'm being, I think everybody should stop whatever they're doing to make sure that, I'm getting what I need first.
Right.
I mean, that's just the silliest thing I've ever heard. And most of our disturbing emotions are like that. They're all about the sense of this self that's somehow so important, and it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's not that we don't count. But we all count equally.
Oh, right.
So it's just, but the insistence we have that somehow, yeah, that's true, but I'm still should go first. I don't know what our problem is. I do know what our problem is. Anyway, okay, so, oh boy. How y'all doing? Everybody check in with their minds? Maybe not. Where is your mind? That's first thing to check. Is it here? Or is it like I'm going to kind of have to ask y'all to move in a little bit. Like, Jean, could you come over on this side? Yeah, you're in a good spot. It's just too hard. So thank you, Jean. Okay, thank you. Now, or you can scooch in between. There we go. Everybody has visual contact. Okay, so first, so it's always good to just check, is my mind really present with my body here, now? Or is it still off planning something else or thinking about, today or da-da-da-da-da? That's how we miss our lives. It's not even being present for it. We're just, we're always on to the next thing or the last thing, it's like, now has no meaning. Not that it has much meaning, but it's just, we can't choose how we respond to whatever comes up if we're not even present. Our habit energy will just kick in and we'll just, react. We can't make that pause if we're over here somewhere else, and then, because usually that means we're startled by whatever comes up because we're not present to begin with. And then when something comes up that demands our attention, we're kind of like, clueless. And so we tend to react. Could I put my head down? I'm sorry, I'm amused today. Okay. So, okay. Then, after you've made sure your mind is here, it's good to just see what flavor your mind's having at this, at the moment. Is it curious? Is it tired? Is it, annoyed? Whatever. It won't stay that way, so you don't have to really worry about it. But it's, yeah. Okay. Is that big enough, or do I need to go
Yes,
bigger?
for me.
Okay. I can't see it. So I could turn my, and I don't want
You
to.
can see it there, right?
So I just have to be difficult.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. We like that. Okay, so first, remember why you decided to show up and set a good intention or an intention to use this time well based on your reason. Setting a motivation up at the beginning of whatever you're doing helps create the cause for, if it's, if you think, oh, I showed up because I kind of want to, I want to understand this stuff better, the Buddhist teachings better, because I'm hoping that it might make my mind better, whatever it is, but then you always want to include that thought, but not just to benefit me, but to benefit all the people around me, and so, using the stone in the pond ripple effect, this is how we can benefit all others. The more we benefit the people around us, the more they benefit people around them, the more they, and this really, we all know that this actually does work. We see it in action. There are times when we may have no impact on someone else around us, but it's rare. Our mood matters. And so thinking, trying to really understand that, but setting a motivation like that actually creates the cause to meet good conditions in the future where you're going to meet the teachings again, where you're going to keep being able to work on yourself, and keep benefiting others, get better and better at it. Slowly, slowly. It's not, it's not an event, it's a process. Okay. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. Yeah, let me raise the thing. And dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. This is the other book is dedicating. So that's why at the end of a teaching or whatever, we try to dedicate the merits, because that seals it so that it will, the great enlightenment's when everybody becomes enlightened. So it means our merit won't exhaust until everybody becomes enlightened. And that's probably a very long time, if we're any indication. Anyway. Gotta quit doing that. But this prayer, the 7-limb prayer, is perfect, a perfect practice. Like if you just go through these lines slowly and reflect on them and actually do what it's asking you to do, there's heaps of merit in that and purification in that. So, it's practice doesn't have to be complicated. Oh. For refuge, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Anything on anybody's mind? Anybody have a mind? Did you find what you were looking for last week, Chris? I know you were looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's book. I do think it's on the Tantra. You're still muted. And hit the space bar and just hold it down while you talk.
He might be on a phone.
Oh, if you're on the phone, that won't work. Because there's no space bar. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know why you're still muted. Technology.
Use the chat. Where'd he go?
He'll.
Oh,
he's
there
down
we
here.
go. Can you hear me?
There you are. Yes, I can. All right.
Yeah, I took a look on Wikipedia and found good information.
Good. Excellent. Yes. Everything's at our fingertips. Now, don't forget, there's also fake news and wrong news and misinformation. Wikipedia is pretty good. They tend to tell you if they haven't cited it, if they don't know what they're talking about, but there's also, looking at the lamayeshi.com website has a glossary there, Googling, searching there is a good place. So is studybuddhism.com. That's Alex Berzin's site. He's very reputable. And there's something called, I think, Rigpa. I don't know if that's .com or but it's in a different tradition. I mean, it's Tibetan tradition, but they also tend to have pretty good information as far as glossary, information. Then if you ever want to know about tankas, you can go to the Himalayan Art Society. And they have all sorts of history of them and pictures. And it's a good resource too. Or it's a museum or something. And if you ever want to learn about Tibet, they opened a museum a few years ago, and they've got a website, and it's very good, So I went to it in Dharamsala. It's in Dharamsala. So if you're just curious about those kinds of things, it's very interesting. Sure, if you looked up Tibet Museum, India, you'd find it. Because I can't tell you what it is right at this moment. Anyway. So. Where are you in the book? Yep.
I know you talked about the eye last week, but could I ask something about it?
Yes, please. That's a never-ending story.
Well, it's saying that when we develop an insight into emptiness, we shall view things quite differently from the way we do now. It will be as though everything were a phantom or mirage.
Yeah.
But this does not imply that nothing exists. So
right.
It's like both
not at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But what people, Arya beings that have actually realized emptiness, I mean directly, that they actually have an experience of seeing reality for what it is, no longer fall for the illusory nature of conventional existence. So it still looks like, it still arises, looks like it's inherently existent until you're a Buddha. It has all those same, it doesn't look any different from our eyeballs perspective, but their minds now know how things actually exist. So in that sense, just like once you've learned what a mirage was, then when you see mirages, you're no longer fooled. You know what it is. You know that it's looking like water, but it's an effect of the heat or da. So, Arya beings know that about everything. So it isn't that the things don't exist, but the way we perceive them to exist, we have put this added layer to everything, that is never has existed. It doesn't, it's not just that, where it'll disappear somehow. It never existed in the first place. So conventional things exist without this superimposition. We couldn't put this layer on top of things if they weren't there. Okay. That extra layer we're putting on things is we relate to things as if they are permanent, independent, self-existent, that they're from their own side, like I'm tendering from my own side, which implies that somehow I came that way, that when I was born, a label on my head, tendering, that we, and that's not true. There's nothing that just, that we don't exist like that. And intellectually, we all kind of know that once we're adults, we know that. We know that everything is dependent of rising. We may not know that phrase, but we know there are causes and conditions and things arise if everything you need is there and all that kind of stuff. We see it in nature all the time. What we don't realize is that in the very next instant, we've layered a story on top of whatever we perceive. So as soon as as soon as I see the cup, it has meaning to me that's more than just this object that came about through lots of causes and conditions, won't be here for, whatever time, it's going to disappear. And that the reason it's called a cup is just because we named it a cup, language and conception is really what defines everything. It's not that this cup from its own side is a cup. It's only a cup because of language and conception. And we happen to name things that can, hold water that are not a vase, a cup. Don't ask me why we decided to come up with different words. I think the Tibetans have one word called bumpa, which is vase. Anyway, but it's something that's capable of holding water. So we know things by function. That's how we kind of put labels on things. So by a certain, and that function is quite varied. And then we all have our individual little filters that we put on everything, and they're just made up. We think they're true. We think that it's coming from the side of the object. We do this with people. It's really easy to see how we do it with people. We could just meet someone and already have sort of theories about what they're like based on their clothing, their accent, their gender, their, whatever, It's a total story. But it has consequences, because how we interpret those things, it depends on the story we tell ourselves about those things. Oh, she's wearing too much makeup. Oh, we can just spiral out of control with stuff like that. Or she'd look better with makeup. Oh, those clothes really, don't do a thing for me. Blah, blah, blah. We're just silly, Like I told you, when I was a teenager, I thought people with a strong Southern accent had to be idiots.
There's a lot of people that believe that.
Well, that doesn't make them right. Really. I mean, it was pathetic. And then I moved to North Carolina, and guess what happened?
They all have that accent.
Guess who developed one?
Oh.
When I first moved to North Carolina, I couldn't understand a word. Not a word people said to me. I'd just be going, what? Now it's the accent with which I speak. So interesting. But we go, I mean, all that stuff is, no big deal, except we actually grasp after these ideas we have about people and hold them to somehow be true. How do we know that? How do we know that we think that way? What are some clues about what we say or do?
Just avoiding somebody you don't even know just because of what you see.
Yeah, that's one example. Yep.
We limit ourselves then. If, when we're judging this person and telling ourselves a story, you know.
Yeah. And so what are some of our clues that tell us? Like you said, we avoid certain people even though we don't know them. That's usually karma. You know, we have some sort of funny karma with somebody and we see them on sight. We're like, nah, not getting to know them.
Across the street.
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. But anyway, we do that. Not very often, perhaps, you know. Thank goodness, because, you know, it's terrible when you're the person that everybody walks away from. You know? So anyway, also things like when someone does something and we can't believe they did it. I wouldn't have expected that out of you, according to whose story? You know, we really hold people to be a certain way every time. And if they do something, you know, not that, we're often startled by it. Like, whoa, didn't think you thought that way, or would do that, or say that, or da 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 da. You know, so these, I mean, we just want to be aware when we're doing that. You know, we want to notice, oh, look at me, I've got a whole story about this person, you know, and I know nothing about them.
So how do you, when you approach somebody, how do you keep that blank slate about that person?
Well, first of all, you don't, but what you can do is not listen to yourself. You know, you start some, oh, what about, you know, and then you kind of go, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm taking this little piece of information and making it into some big thing, story, or some assumption, da 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 da. So you really have to pay attention to what's going on in your mind. You know, this is difficult. Yeah.
Doesn't that sometimes though help protect you?
Well, if you need protecting, like, I don't know, when's the last time you met a tiger on the road? Okay. So how often do you need this kind of protection in our world?
Well, I had an interaction with a gentleman today, and the way he looked me up and down, I said to myself, run, basically.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I feel that sometimes what we think is for our benefit.
Sometimes it benefits us. Doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
No, but I absolutely, this is why we have that part of the brain that goes fight or flight, because there are very real things when you live in a jungle all the time. Every day there might be something you run into that could kill you. You know, we're fortunate that we're not living in those conditions. If you live in a war zone, you're living in those conditions. So you want those clue, you know, that kind of hair on the back of your neck. I don't have that, but anyway, you know, you want that kind of thing to guide you. What we need to know, though, is that that's different from knowing it's true. This person is dangerous. We don't actually know that. And we don't need to stick around to find out. You know, that's not necessary. It's just that we need to understand that just because our mind is telling you something doesn't mean it's true. And we need to get very discerning about what we trust in our own minds. So, because we make up stories all the time, you know, that doesn't mean we should remove this ability to sense when we're in danger. That's not needed.
Good girl.
You know. Yep.
Good girl. Honey, you gotta finish it. Come on.
Somebody is not muted that needs to be muted. Thank you. What?
Say something.
Yeah.
So no matter how many times I prove myself wrong, when instant categorization, instant summation, and then meet the person and prove to myself that no matter how many times I'm still habituated.
Yeah, you have to stop it.
Yeah.
You have to intervene, which means it's going to keep rising. And then you have to pause and go, I don't know that that's true. Just have a little conversation in your head and it will lose its power, but we are habituated to it. Sometimes for good reasons, we need, this is why Black parents sit down with their kids and have serious talks about the danger they're in, because it's very real. So it's and we have to learn these things. We learn that certain snakes are poisonous. Don't try to pick those up. They may be pretty, but don't try to pick those up. We need that kind of information. But we want to learn now that we're adults, and we can use the capacity of our brain and our, the sophisticated brain that we have. We can make it use our minds in a way that, we can analyze situations and recognize I'm jumping to conclusions here. I don't want to do that. I want to just stay open. So you have to pause and have that conversation 3 million times. And it just doesn't rise at all, or you just get amused. You just kind of go, well, yeah, like I know. So that then you kind of drop the story and you discover what is actually a person is like, in that moment, because it'll be different every moment. But it's just, and if you get out of the habit of judging, then you kind of lose this whole expectation thing out of people. You don't, you just don't have preconceived notions. You don't have, you can really kind of let go of that. And then you can respond to what's actually happening, not respond through the filter of your story. Because then everything's distorted. You have no clue what's true or not, because it's a story you're making up, and then you're trying to fit the facts to it, because that's what we do. It's why eyewitness testimony can be so faulty, is people know pieces and they just make a complete picture even though they don't have one. So we want to, understand we're doing that all the time. And those filters limit us. They also grasp as if people exist in a particular way. So it increases that sense of grasping at a self. We do it to other people, we do it to ourselves. So when there's nothing, we'll never find an essence that is you. It changes. Yep. Okay.
It's even that phrase that the person stepped out of character, like they left their identity that's supposed to be.
Yeah. Because we really hold people to live like that. And we hold things to be like, we're so surprised when something breaks. Isn't it permanent? I mean, none of us think that, but yet when we're surprised, clearly part of us is holding it to be like that. It's really interesting that, and so we have to intervene. To break the habits, we have to notice what's arising and then pause. And then at a later time, when you maybe have more time, you think about it. Oh, look at how I make these stories up, and they're not based on anything. What's the advantage of that? What's the disadvantage of that? You kind of go through a little oral argument for yourself to, be able to understand that this prevents us from seeing things as they actually are, because we don't leave room for that. If you're seeing everything through a filter, what you're seeing is the filter.
How do you rid yourself of your filter?
Just what I said. First, you have to get familiar with it. And then you have to notice when it's in operation. And then you have to pause and go, maybe I shouldn't listen to this filter.
Everything I do is probably through a filter.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to pay attention to your mind all the time. And then it becomes a habit. You're always paying attention to your mind. That's not a habit at the moment. So you have to develop that habit. And wait, how do you do that? You pay attention to your mind. You notice. Now, that takes time. You have to, because you'll miss it most of the time. And then you'll kind of go, oh, I'm not paying attention, so you have to remind yourself. And then, when you're not in the thick of things, you want to sit down and reflect on why it's a good idea to develop this habit. We need reasons. We need our reasons. Why would it matter to you? Well, I'm tired of misjudging people. I'm limiting the scope of my friends by just, going, no, not them, not them, I mean, how many people do that when you walk into a room and you want to sit and you have to sit down, it's like, oh, you kind of look around, choosy,
Kids are the best. It's, oh, this restaurant smells
Yeah.
someplace else.
Yeah. Yeah. You can find out exactly what they're thinking.
I just got her got her a book, The Emperor Has No
Clothes.
No Clothes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, of course, we bring some of our filters with us. I mean, if we've had countless lives, we've already got some with us in this birth. You see children also have these things operating. We have habits already, so so we have to have respect for how powerful the habit is. It's, if there's something you did even as a child, it's a strong habit. You brought it from life to life to life, and here you are doing it again, so it's going to take a little bit of effort. Now, some things are easier than others because you lose nothing by doing it. You only gain, so, you'll find that some things are habits, you kind of go, oh, it's kind of easy to let go of, silly habit, blah, blah. Other things, it's like, are you kidding? I'm sorry, I'm going to hold tight to this one. And it's really hard. Things that have to do with protection. If we go around with life guarded, because we're always afraid of being cheated. We're always afraid of being harmed. We're always afraid of this or that. Those are hard to give up. That's why you really have to use your reasoning. You have to sit down going, okay, why do I start there? Why do I assume? I'm not talking about, like physical danger or, these things, but it's like, why do I start from a place of distrust? Is that really working for me? And this is part of our filters, with there's certain groups of people, we just assume, and, we could stop that if we notice that we're doing it. But it's going to take some good reasoning to be able to make it worth our while to keep trying. Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but unfortunately, my mind keeps jumping to that. And I think we're at a moment in our collective society where it's been empowered to be that way.
We already were that way.
Yeah, we were, but now it's empowered to give voice to it.
We were always that way.
Yeah.
It's just somebody else has the voice. It's not your voice.
It's being promulgated in
Yeah.
such a,
So, like, shall we just kill all those people?
obviously not, but.
No, they won't go away anyway. They'll just be reborn. They'll be back.
Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Well, I mean, so the point is, we have to learn how to get along. And we could wait for someone else to start, or we can start. It's like, it's this, and yes, we need to have all voices out there. Democracy works if all voices are out there. We've ended up with this incredibly tight two-party system. Where did that come from? it's lazy. It's just like, oh, let's just have two. It's hard enough to make a decision between two. Let's not have three, four, or five, you know. The thought of having that what do they call it? The rating system, or the first, you vote for your the best three choices, and they
Coalition.
I don't know.
Coalition.
Australia does it, but Alaska I think does it. So it's not there's some numbering thing that works, but in
Like
so
Iowa?
I think it's
Caucus?
Alaska. No, that's a caucus. I'm talking about the actual election. When you vote, you have to put your first choice, second choice, and third choice. So you don't have to have runoffs. The way to avoid runoffs. Anyway, my point is that responding with a blanket, there's no way I can understand where these people are coming from, does us no good at all. Not. Are they really that different from you? I doubt it. We really need to understand what people are trying to accomplish by it. I mean, like, let's face it, everybody understands, the desire to make sure there's jobs available for you. And if you're afraid that people coming into the country are going to prevent you from working, that could be that could trigger that fight or flight thing. Everybody wants their children to be safe. Everybody has an opinion on what things children should know about yet. When I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch the news. My parents thought, that's just too harsh. Boy, it wasn't harsh then. By comparison, so there are all these opinions out there. But when we get down to what people actually want, they're not all that different. They want a safe society. They want a protected society. Everybody's, wants, to feel like, no other country could invade us and take over, all these kind of things. These are very common denominators. We disagree on how to achieve it. So it's not simple. If it was simple, we would have figured this out a few, 100 years ago, but it's not simple. So we have to really ask ourselves, how can I participate in what's going on now to be of benefit? So you find a way that you can participate, and that right away, that agency of knowing you're doing something, not just saying, oh, God, this is terrible, this is impossible, this is blah, blah, blah. I hate all these people, whatever. I mean, you will have just a sense of you have a voice, and everybody should do that. So it's society has been ugly many times in history. We've killed many people many times. We've had dictatorships, monarchies, all sorts of things. And we tend to have more of those than anything else. Clearly, having democracies are hard. So we shouldn't be surprised that it flip-flops and flip-flops and flip-flops. The work is not done.
What Winston Churchill said, democracy is a terrible form of government, but it's better than everything else.
Yeah. I saw a quote today about, like, in Norway, when they talk about their partner, they use some phrase that has no gender associated with it, no anything. It just, it's just like cherished one. Sweden, it's something that means beloved one. Again, no gender down. In Finnish, it means the person I hate the least. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, I don't know if it's true, but it was pretty funny.
It's supposed to be the happiest place on earth.
Oh, no, Denmark.
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 Yeah, I don't think Finland's far behind, but that was pretty funny. So I don't know if it's true. I mean, don't take this as gospel, but it's just funny, so we're talking about people here. People trying to come up with a solution. Have you ever tried to get your whole family to agree on a solution? It is hard. You know, it's like, government by consensus is hard, so that's why we don't do it. Majority rules because it's so much easier than consensus. It's not as wise, but when you have a lot of people and they're spread out all over the place, but so we have to understand that at any given moment, no matter what's happening, we can either be a voice to make things better, or we can be a voice that just stays stuck and hates people. I mean, that's their choice. We can either try to do something, accept the fact that we don't have a whole lot of power as individuals, but collectively, look how much change has occurred. We weren't listening. So, hey, and it's scary to feel like your voice has just disappeared. And all these people who voted this election with there were large groups who switched parties to vote because they didn't feel like they were being heard. Now, what's going to happen? I don't think it's going to be good news. But anyway, that's my opinion. So we can do what we can do. And that is try to be a voice to find out what might work that would not harm people in the meantime. Is that going to happen right away? No, nothing like that happens right away. It's better than just hoping that the current administration just screws up so badly everybody will abandon them, because that may not happen. They've got an awful lot of power. These are very wealthy people.
There's very wealthy people all over.
Oh yeah. I just don't seem to have friends that are in there.
I just think there's another way too. Like what you were saying at the beginning, where now is my mind?
Yes, but it's not enough to just work on your mind. You want it to benefit others.
Well, if you work on your mind, won't that benefit others?
You could just be aiming for liberation yourself.
Okay.
So
that brings me to another question that's maybe a little bit unrelated. Why didn't, I mean, there's a lot of Buddhists. Why does it seem like so many of them took the long way to become Buddhists?
What's the long way?
Like Bodhicitta, rather than the Tantra.
The Buddha taught all the schools for people with different dispositions.
Right, but didn't Buddha Shakyamuni, didn't he take the long path?
No.
Not that he took the quick one also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Other traditions don't buy into that. That's our story. And we're going to buy into that.
And
And we'll be right, of course. Yeah, right. Yeah. Tell me when you get enlightened. So, it's yeah.
When we have these opinions, does having that opinion help make it kind of stick, or carry a manifestation towards it if we don't change thought? I don't know.
No, it can make us become dogmatic. And then we can't see anybody's point of view but our own. We can't learn anything anymore. If we just hold that our view is the right view, we don't really even listen. We become an upside down pot. Nothing goes in. So if we want to stay in a right side up pot to let things in, then it's helpful to really want to understand someone else's point of view. Tell me why you want that. I'm interested. What do you think the effect of that will be? What is it, and just listen, not then come back with your own argument of how wrong they are. That's not listening.
I guess what I'm asking is just take in general, a Debbie Downer.
And Debbie Downer, is that what you said? Okay, I heard
Yeah.
that right. Okay.
Yeah. just where like nothing's gonna work out, everything's gonna be bad. You're still open, you're hopeful.
No, you've decided.
Okay.
You've decided. It's not an I don't know. It's a hey, not looking good.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's not that everybody has to become an optimist. It's just that because, that's another habit, I mean, it's being open to just others' views, it's like, and you might learn something and you might see a new way forward. It's amazing the synergy. It's like group, what do they call it? Work groups, group think, or when you work with a team as opposed to a bunch of individuals where it's top down, whatever. I can tell how well versed I am in corporate America. Okay, so but group more ideas can be generated when you hear out a whole group, because there are all those different minds participating in it, and there can be. It's not just that somebody idea over here is better than this person's idea, but through that, there's a synergy that some new idea entirely comes out of it, So it's just, so it's just, yeah, you sort of brainstorming. But anyway, it really helps to recognize when in any conversation, what habits you bring into the table. Have you already made up your mind? Do you have a tendency to think that your ideas are the best? Do you have an agenda? Is there something you also want out of this picture that you're not sharing with others? Because that clouds our view as well. There are times when we have to just say, I'm not a reliable source because this is what I want to have happen. And it's because of this. And so I can't see other possibilities at this moment. So, I'm not, I'm so keen on this happening that I can't really, I'm not open to listening. So I probably shouldn't be participating in this vote or whatever, because I'm grasping at one outcome. In a family, those kinds of abilities are really important. And if you recognize, ooh, I've got something here that I'm grasping that I want. And you want everybody, in your mind, ideally, you could manipulate everybody into agreeing with you in some subtle, nobody would notice way. We need to know when we're doing those kind of things, then we're really driven. And how do we tell that? Nobody has any clues.
Impossible.
Oh, you don't look at your mind much, do you? I know you do, so I know that's not true. So
My kids are on opposite ends.
yeah, that's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you.
Me,
How do you know when you have an agenda?
I always have an agenda.
Well, that's a starting point. That makes it simple, isn't it? So how do you find out what your agenda is? How do you know when it's become more important than communication?
Meditators.
Well, that's how you find out a solution. I'm talking about when you're messed up.
Stop listening.
You stop listening. You interrupt people
I'm uncomfortable.
when you're uncomfortable. These are all clues that there's something in this for me and I need to figure out so I can either share it with others or let it go.
I need self-honesty. I mean, the courage.
Absolutely. Honesty and kindness to yourself are really important. It's okay that you prefer this rather than that. Well, we need to put it on the table. It's like we need to understand that it's our preference. Unless there's a deeper need there, we want to find out what that is so we can share that. I'm really afraid if we don't do this, this will happen. You know. And so sometimes parents make the decision because they're responsible for their children. So they have to kind of, I'm sorry, we're going to go with this because we think it's really important. You know, even though the kids are going, you know, screaming bloody murder. You know, because, you know, that's your job. Your job is to make some decisions that are important. So it's not a free for all. It's not a democracy. Raising kids is not a democracy. That would not be a good look. You know. But you also know when it's not important, right? You know, you kind of go, oh yeah, pick what do you want to wear? You know, let them discover their preferences. Okay. So this all started with this illusion-like stuff, right? When we create these illusions, they start with our ignorance. They start with the fact that we think things exist from their own side, that there's something findable that defines people, things, whatever. We're mistaking function as if it's some sort of, you know, fixed thing. I mean, it's like, you know, like, yes, a cup has a function, right? When it gets run over by a truck and it's flat, it no longer can function as a cup. What do we call
Risky,
it?
flat cup.
A flat cup. Because we're still holding on to it as a cup. And even more, it's my flat. My cup has been flattened.
Flat cup.
So that's a clue. How we hold on to things in this, you know, as if they inherently are this. You know, it's inherently a cup. From its own side, it's a cup until it's not. You know. With people and with ourselves, we have a sense of ourselves often that almost feels separate from our body and mind. It's like an extra part. Yeah, but that's not who I am. Yeah, I know I did that, but you know, that's not who I am. Because what is that who I am? That's our idea of who we are. You know, and that doesn't exist. That's an idea. It's a thought. We can't capture us. We're a series of mental and physical moments. And trying to go, oh, but this part's me. I don't think this, you know, it's not accurate at all. The good news about that is we're not stuck. You know, all the habits that we think, I can't change these habits. Yes, you can. You have to choose though, where are you going to start? You know, you might not get through them all in this life, but the more you do it, the more that you see you can actually change your habits. You can be more open-minded instead of have assumptions all over the place. You'll have even more, you know, it'll build on itself because it has rewards in and of itself because it comes from that side. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, we'll suffer less when we're grasping at things less. Because what we're grasping at doesn't exist. So there's no way to hold it. So we're gonna, it's a necessary, what I was gonna say. Failure is absolute. You cannot hold it. Because there's nothing to hold on to.
So if you lose the fear of ceasing to exist,
Can help. It's like like this body fear we have that somebody can harm our bodies, or an animal might attack us, like black bears in the middle of a gorgeous park. Like, I don't go there often. So being able to accept we're all dying, right? What is it, like 120 years from now, there'll be none of the people on this planet still here. It's wild. Think about how many billions of us there are. None of them will be here. 150 years, whatever. But I mean, it's like amazing. That's not very long. So understanding that, trying to hang on as if we can't be hurt, as if because our bodies are easily hurt, as if we can protect it. Yeah, you can protect it and then you die. That's going to happen. You may never have an illness your whole life and you're still going to die because the body fails. The good news is that your mind doesn't. So we can keep being stuck in this cycle of birth and death, these minds that are completely obscured by ignorance, and keep doing this thing. There's no end to that. Or we can say, I'm tired of suffering in this way. And the first thing I can work on is the suffering that I create all by myself. We don't, we can't see how we caused our bodies to be vulnerable, I mean, even though that's also a karmic effect, but it's over, long time. And it's also from grasping of the self. But we can see how the stories we make up adds suffering to our lives. We can see how clinging to people as if they're not going to die can cause us suffering in this life. That's different from grief. Grief is your own loss. Someone dies and you experience a loss. That's a fact. That's there. But did that person cease to exist? Not only their body, their mental continuum, they still exist. They're not in your life. You're the one having the loss. They've moved on. So this sense that somehow, we have to protect this body at all costs, which means killing others, perhaps, depending on where you are and what you're, that Buddha would say, we got this backwards. There are things that you need to abandon. Killing people is one of them. So that should be your last option. Like His Holiness says, if he thought he was the last person on the planet who could teach the Dharma, then maybe he'd kill the person trying to kill him. Not that he would stand there and take it. He would try to get away. Running's always an option. Fighting back is also an option. But killing someone just because you can, His Holiness has abandoned that thought, Now, that does not, if he's not enlightened, then it doesn't, if he's not even a bodhisattva, I can't say that he would follow up on that, if it actually happened, But his habits of mind indicate that, yes, he wouldn't go that far to protect this body. So that's, yeah.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how you said the karmic effect creates vulnerability.
Okay, so according to the Buddha, we create all of our experiences from our past actions of body, speech, or mind. So the good news about this body, okay, is it doesn't have claws. It doesn't naturally harm other beings. Like we don't have claws. We're soft, this kind of thing where we've got a good body for hugs and nurturing, you know. So that's the good aspect, that's like indicates some habits having, at least we weren't practicing them in recent lives. Tigers don't have that, Both of us can be harmed. Why? Because it's a samsaric body. They don't last. What I find hilarious is that literally everything we need can kill us. Food can kill you, water can kill you, the weather can kill you, the sun can kill you. Try to think of a single thing that you need, and you can suffocate in your duvet. It's like there's just nothing that can't kill us. So we're not safe. That's just a fact. Can we make ourselves safer? Yes, by going, oh, maybe it's not a good idea, to put this plastic bag over my head.
I don't walk under a coconut tree.
Okay, you don't walk under a coconut tree. Very good. Yeah, it's, so I don't go climb mountains in try to, reach the top of the Himalayas or Mount Everest or jump out of airplanes or, Okay, so why? Because they all are, you're more likely to die sooner rather than later.
The most dangerous thing we do,
What
we go downstairs and get into a car.
Cars are really, really not good. And all sorts of people have dangerous professions, some of which really benefit others, others not so much. Maybe it keeps others from doing the same thing because they can just watch you. So hard to say. But this idea that somehow you can be safe is not true. So living a very guarded life as if you can be safe is limiting your options. You think about people who are afraid to go anywhere, and they don't do anything. They kind of get more and more isolated. They might develop agoraphobia. They just don't go outside at all. They're still going to die. So it's that kind of thing. It's not like we shouldn't protect our lives. Of course we should protect our lives, but grasping as if the only important thing is this body lasts forever is foolish, because it's not going to happen. It can't happen. Enlightened beings, that's an irreversible state. They don't need bodies unless they want to talk to us ordinary samsaric beings. Then they have to manifest, like Shakyamuni Buddha did, have to manifest a body. Because we can't see enlightened mind. Other enlightened minds know they're around because they all pervade everything. Anyway, but so our past actions manifest in the worlds we live in the food we get access to, and people are a mixed bag. We have people who are born people. Well, that takes ethics. You have to practice ethics in the past to be born a human being, because that's a very good mind to be able to try to keep working on your habits, But you look, not everybody has a perfect human rebirth. People have really quite a varied situation. So it's not enough to be born human. You have to be born human with resources. You have to be born human and be able to meet teachings. You have to have free time to be able to go to teachings. It's really helpful if you have the language of the teachers. There are all sorts of things that have to come together. So the Buddha said, the good news is if you start abandoning negative habits, and start practicing some positive habits, you will create the cause to keep meeting these things. until finally you abandon the habits you need to abandon, and you cultivate the habits that that we also have, but we get, so that all the time we're kind and patient and wise and all these things, the good stuff. Then we'll be able to actually see reality as it actually is, have a direct experience of that, and we'll get out of samsara, this cycle of uncontrolled birth and death. So those are the two things we need to develop. Our, the compassion or method side of the practice is being able to develop merit by having good actions, abandoning non-virtuous actions like killing and stealing and sexual misconduct and all the usual 10 non-virtues. 10 commandments are all very similar in all the religions. And then also self-reflection, really noticing where your mind is so we can see where we're misguiding ourselves. Or we can see that we're making up stories about people in the world and everything that are just based on our particular point of view that isn't complete. And that's obscuring us from being able to see how things actually are. So we keep working on that. And it helps when you can, have the conditions develop calm abiding. It means your concentration's perfect. So you can focus on what you need to focus on for as long as you need. So you don't get distracted. And you have enough resources that you don't have to worry about it. Now, what we might think are necessary resources in this life may not be what resources we need for somebody who is at that stage of development. Because they may just find, a quiet cave somewhere with clean water nearby and, occasional bags of food, like oats or something. Have y'all read Tenzin Palmo's Cave in the Snow? She's a nun she's a Westerner. She was from England. She did 12 years of retreat in some little village somewhere in Nepal, probably. And so somebody would come from the little village that was nearby once a year to bring her supplies. And then she also gardened and stuff. And so one year he didn't show up. So things had to go for 2 years. So, and she got snowbound, and she got trapped in her little, they're not really caves, they're like a clay hut type thing. But she got snowed in. So they were like, finally opens the door or something, and it's 2 feet of snow blocking her. She had time to think, but so, to learn how to be able to control your mind, no matter what's going on, takes strong motivation. First of all, to succeed at whatever you aim to do. Like, she didn't leave when the guy didn't come up with supplies. She could have just said, well, then I'm going to go in. No. She was on retreat and she was determined, so she made do. Yeah, you can see I'm not at that stage. Yep. So, but this is a thing. So you have to, it's when you read some of the stories, like Geshe Raton, who was one of the first Tibetans after they all had to leave Tibet, and he went to Switzerland, and he was he was one of Lama Yeshe's teachers, and was up a Rinpoche and lots of people. Anyway, but he also taught a lot of Western Buddhist in the early days. But there's a book. He wrote a book somewhere around here. And so it tells a story of how he got to a monastery and studied, And I'm just, you read it and you kind of think, yeah, it's not me. So like, yeah, I wouldn't want to suffer that much to be able to succeed at getting to the monastery and being able to study, Now, granted, his life in Tibet was harsher than my life's ever been. So it was not like it was a grand step down. It's just that still, it's like, I'd be grasping at what little I had anyway. But, it's like impressive that, but he was determined to study. And that's past life karma. That's from an early age. He just like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, at 2 years old, he kept crawling up this side of this thing, going, "Oh, my cave's up there." So we have to develop that kind of determination now, so that in our next line, it bears the fruit of meeting the teachings again, having conditions to be able to study for them and all that kind of stuff. So, and also to prepare our mind so that when we die, we cause a positive seed to ripen. So all of these things.
Nothing.
Okay. So all of these things factor in. So when we're starting, it really is about, where would I like my life to improve? What habits do I have that are interfering with my relationships, that are interfering with my sense of satisfaction, those kinds of things that, so we can start to understand this constant craving we have for some sort of satisfaction. Because the Buddha said, guess what? As long as you're in samsara, life is not satisfying. It's, and it's because of our karma. So we'll have good stuff, but we're always going to have the bad stuff mixed in. So seeking it in this kind of existence is futile. That doesn't mean we can't have a more contented mind, because we can quit creating the suffering that we add to these not great conditions. And we all have pretty good conditions. So, but realizing that the mind of longing, the mind that feels in lack of something, is a suffering mind. So recognizing that I'm just chasing after things that I think are going to make me feel a little better for a moment, but the chase is the problem. Letting that go and just going, okay, what I really need to do is just work on my responses from moment to moment, and quit having expectations of different outcomes and different this, and work on my relationships, because that's a big part of working on our mind. Relationships really show us where we're not succeeding. So so that it's a good place to start. Plus, it's all, it's really about the mind. Relationships. It's not really about things. It's about, how do I talk? How am I, how can I be kind? How can I think of them? How can I be mindful of their needs and their wants? How can I, be gentle and kind, so that I, and how can I just even hear what they're saying to me? So like we start, when you want to benefit others, good place to start is your family, and if your family's all gone, then you start with your friends, it's that kind of thing. I creaked my neck.
Mhm.
So like this book goes through basically, the sort of an overview of the path. So the beginning of the book is a good introduction to just different things. And then, it kind of goes through, the path. So it's just and it goes through a whole chapter on how do we have to think about the I. And did anybody try to go through that chapter again?
You should.
That worked. No. Okay. So you'll progress as much as you work. It's that simple. So So,
You're referring to like chapter 6 or 7?
and we should be finished by now.
I know, but I reread 6.
I was talking about the chapter that's literally like,
Yeah.
it's a way to do a meditation on emptiness.
Right.
Did you?
Reread that a few times and
Yeah.
I'm using that meditation.
Yeah, I mean, it really is helpful to take this stuff and then just do little small pieces and think about that a while. I mean, they say if you think about the different topics of the whole path, the Lam Rim teachings and the whole path for about, 2 months, and then progress to the next one for 2 months and the next one. I mean, this is meditation though, not just, not just reading it, but muting it and then contemplating it and da 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 da, that you can actually have realizations.
I found Lama Yeshe Lama's over Rinpoche book, the Lam Rim Year.
Yes.
That's each day.
Is a
only 2
meditation.
pages a day.
Yeah.
With 3 points at the end.
Yep. It's
If you
excellent.
want, you can combine 2 or 3, but it's perfect for insight meditation each day.
Yeah.
And the way they write,
Well, I mean, it
very
helps to,
accessible.
yeah, but you've also got more information than just that,
Like,
which also helps, so like, reading a thing, like even just wisdom energy, just, reading about the, things about impermanence and emptiness, blah, 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 blah. Then, when you have, these short little, think about this, definitely it guides you through it. And then when you become so familiar with it, that's the thing, there's a reason why you have these short, the geshes, they study 2 pages every day. And 2 pages means at the front and back of one of their long text, they'd have to memorize it because you can't bring your books to class, so, and then they debate it. So the teacher teaches on it and then they debate what's in those 2 pages, and then they go on, And so it's not, it's these small pieces, but they're connected. So it's, but it's the consistency. It's doing it every day. It's, it doesn't mean doing it for 3 hours every day. 20 minutes every day is helpful. Like you said, discovering like little slogans, really help. The Lam Rim Year, little meditations like that, really, especially because they're in they've been, they're grouped, I mean, it's meant to be a progression through the path. So
right, it goes through the 3 scope.
yeah, and so that's helpful to have it organized in some way. It's people memorize outlines to the Lam Rim Chenmo, the great treatise on the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment. It's a long title because it's basically this shorthand of what you meditate on, So, so but again, when you're beginning, it's like you want to notice what's going on in your mind. And then every time you realize, I have no idea what's on my mind, look, listen, develop that habit. It can help to set motivations at the beginning of every activity. That sort of helps you keep checking your mind. These are things that can help you remember what's important to you. If you set a motivation, like before entering someone's house to say, I want to enjoy, this time with my friend, so that helps you to remember that that's what you want to do, instead of just rushing from one thing to the next, really pausing, whether it's in your car, while you're parking your car, to just let's take, 60 seconds to remember, I'm now leaving this task behind and I'm going in to do this. May I bring a peaceful mind, a loving mind when I walk through the door. It can really help us shift gears. It help us that maybe we really always want to be kind. The people who are helping with my neck today, the people who, the PAs and all that kind of stuff, they're really kind, and I can't help but think much, the surgeon, not so much, I mean, he might be in real life, but I mean, I haven't had much contact with him, but the nurses in the hospital, all these people, they're really kind of today I was just thinking, they have to deal with elderly people all the time. And boy, kindness goes so far with people who feel uncertain, and these are in surgeons' offices. Who doesn't feel uncertain when it involves surgery? And the older you are, I don't know about you guys, but I feel so much less certain about anything, so it's like my anxiety goes way up. And they are just so patient, and they use, they have gentle speech. They sit down to hear your questions, and stuff like these are, it's just, and this could help you, when you notice people acting in a way that you think, oh, this is so nice. You can go, maybe I should try to be like that more often. It's a little, so noticing what's going on, noticing what's in your mind, and then actually setting a motivation, when you shift gears, when you're doing something, it really helps. It makes all the difference in the world when you get home from work. It's amazing if you just pause before you go in the house, before you pick up the kids from school or the grandkids, or whatever, it really makes a difference if you remember to set a motivation based on what you want that relationship to be like. That doesn't mean it doesn't go out the window as soon as the first, snag is hit. But I tell you, the more you practice it and it becomes a habit, it will even help you then. So it's just, these are, we need the reminders. If we want to break a habit, we need lots of reminders, and they just have to be thoughts. I mean, it's just, instead of using our thoughts to go all over the place, use it for a purpose, to help set your tone for the next hour. That can help. Oh. And then learning about the path. I mean, the path's very organized, it's, it teaches about impermanence and death, and, that we need to recognize we have this precious human rebirth. So when we wake up in the morning, the first thing that's appropriate to do is to be grateful. I woke up. The director at our center at Raleigh, he said he's a doctor, and his partner is a doctor, and he's a founder. Well, he said one was the founder of the center, and the other was the director. So they work together, and they have a practice. And when they get to work, they'd say, well, how are you doing today? Well, I woke up and I still don't have claws. These are just little reminders. Okay, this is a good start. So, it doesn't have to be complicated, but it's remembering these steps. So reading an overview of the path is helpful, just to have those little, okay, that's right. We're not always going to wake up. We're one breath away from not waking up, and that next life may be as a mosquito, so let's make good use of this time, Fortunately, that mosquito life won't be long. So, but, or we could be one of those, turtles that live 80 years. That probably help me be patient. So
Sequoias 2000.
yeah, hey, but I don't know how much they're thinking, although they do communicate quite a bit.
Yes, they do.
So
They're sentient.
although I don't really want to be in a wildfire zone, and a tree would always be. See, this is that guarded life. It's useless.
Yeah, I've been haunted about the eye since
Yeah.
reading it, like, it just like, where is it? Is it separate? I can't find it, and I keep coming back to that, in meditation and in a couple pages. And then I noticed how I was with a friend, and that the eye changes, like it could be like she's showing me pictures of her nephews, and I like, why am I more attached to my nephew? Like, the I could be a we and them, and it's not.
Yeah, we grasp it our own self,
Yeah.
and we grasp the selves of others, and we grasp the self of phenomena. We grasp the cup. It is a cup. I'm sorry if it's flattened. It's a flat cup. No, sorry, it can't function as a cup. We do that. We grasp it at the self of people and phenomena, persons and phenomena. And none of them inherently exist, persons or phenomena. They don't exist from their own side. They are merely labeled by language and conception. You know, so why you can't find it, it's not that you don't exist. You're a series of moments that are arising in every moment. You're a dependent arising. One moment of mind gives rise to the next moment of mind, which gives rise to the next moment of mind. One moment of body gives rise to the next moment of body until it doesn't. But I mean, you still will get another body. I mean, it's just, so it's just this series of cause and effect. So you can't actually find you amongst all those moments. You can find a series of moments. That's all. But we grasp onto it like it's some sort of coherent, cohesive story that we can say, oh, but that's me. And so when we deviate from that story, we can go, well, that's not really me. Good luck with that. Does that make any sense? Yeah. But it's really hilarious. Because we go, oh, it's not my nephew, And then we see something about somebody who's doing something fabulous. Oh, I wish that was my nephew. Yeah. We're just crazy. Okay. So now we want to rejoice. We showed up. We made the decision to show up. We showed up. Hopefully we listened some. We asked questions. We participated. We kind of laughed at ourselves. All that's good. We're trying to work on our minds. Couldn't be anything better than that, because that really is our best method for being able to benefit others. Because when our mind's a mess, our actions are a mess. So it's pretty straightforward. So we want to dedicate any positive results from our actions to be of benefit to others, to help keep reminding ourselves it's not just about us. We're all part of this interconnected, interdependent, huge web of sentient beings, and we all count, and none of us are going to disappear. Might as well like them all, but then not this life, maybe. So, okay, we might share. So rejoice in your own merits and all the merits of all the beings who've been doing things positive since beginningless time, which is everybody, but we can rejoice in all the merits that have ever happened, that we can be 100% certain are going to happen in the future. This is our Buddha potential, so it's our Buddha nature manifesting. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta has not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. Being picky. What am I looking for? Because of all the merits of the 3 times created by me and all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders teaching only Dharma, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma. May everyone have perfect conditions and have only compassion and love for each other in their mind streams. And may they only benefit and never harm each other. And the long light prayer first. Holiness. 46. Nope, 244.
34.
Huh?
44 is.
In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Kenrezi Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara. There's always a disconnect. Okay, let's see. 234.
For the prayer case.
Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Yay.